Hey guys, this is Justin Coffin for the 330 Sports Show. Joining us today, we have Ashely Collins of Bally Sports, Ohio, and Drennan Live. So Ashely, thanks for taking the time out and joining us tonight.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. We appreciate you. So Ashely, I want to start with, before we get into some sports stuff, a little bit about your kind of broadcast and history. So how did you get into what you're doing now? Like, kind of, you don't have to give us each little detail, but like kind of, the bullet point version of how you got to where you're at now.
Sure. So I went to Kent State. I actually studied marketing. I originally thought I wanted to do something in sales or maybe event planning, something of that nature. I don't know. Most college kids don't really know actually what they want to do, right? So I thought this plan was great. I started working as an event coordinator at one of the local golf courses. And I've always been a huge sports fan. So I feel like I'm just always talking sports, came from a family of, everyone who loved sports. While I was doing this, actually, Sports Sim Ohio, which our company currently was back in the day, they had a membership. Everyone that would come there and golf got to know them well. And my current boss, Pat, actually had said, "Hey, we're looking for someone new. We have a new role that we want to fill here." And at the time, it was all bets are off with Bruce Drennan as in show updates is what they wanted to kind of bring to the show. So he said, "Hey, I really like working with, people who are knowledgeable in sports and maybe who haven't been in TV before because, they like to kind of mold and shape and teach them." And
Yeah.
I kept saying to him every time I would see him, I'm like, "No, I got my degree in marketing. I'm not, what are you talking about? This is so silly, right?" And we had talked and talked, and finally he's like, "Why don't you just come in and see? Let's chat, let's go over some things." And literally the rest is history. I went in and learned and really tried to perfect my craft with, starting from the bottom up. I got an awesome break, obviously, to be on air, but it took a lot of work before, obviously, learning the ropes and everything. But that's how it all started, which is a really, really crazy story. But I started just on camera stuff, but from there quickly wanted to learn, and they wanted me to learn the editing aspect, behind the scenes, everything that went into all of it. So really getting a good grasp of everything that makes it happen, which is insane because I don't think a lot of people realize what goes into it. So that's where I got the start, and I've been there ever since. Since 2008, I think, is when I started on the show. So my role just kind of has grown throughout the years, and they have been the most amazing people in the world to me. So I appreciate everything from them. But that's my story of how I got into this business.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's cool to hear how, people get into the business. So, obviously people that watch your show with Bruce, we see you on air, but you had mentioned a lot goes on behind the scenes. So tell us a little bit about the behind the scenes aspect that you do.
Yeah. So after I started the on-air stuff, I had learned, because I was doing little updates throughout the show, which entailed, highlights and sound bites and listening to press conferences and going out and, seeing all that stuff. So I had learned to, Avid is the computer that they use, and the program that they did at the time, learning how to cut up the sound bites I wanted, listening to things, kind of having an ear for what was going on, right? And wanting to put that into story form that would go, and why this is important. What's coach saying? What are the players saying? From there, it grew to the production aspect of being a producer. So I did a little bit of our shows that were live, helping out, learning the ropes with that. And then I started actually producing Jimmy Hanlon's golf shows that we travel, which is awesome because we take off a couple months for Drennan Live in January and February. And that's really big travel time for their golf shows because it's freezing here. We go to, the Californias, the Texas, the Floridas, and got a really great opportunity with him to travel with them for those couple months and producing and writing the scripts and everything that kind of entails, and making sure the show stays on how that format needs to be with timing wise and things like that. So just from there, it's just kind of, I could be on air but know in my head too, like, okay, I know this is coming next. I know this is what my soundbite that I would like to use. Or, hey, I'll go to our producer now and say, why don't we do this? Or what about this kind of guest? So it really has helped with on air, knowing all that behind the scenes and having a hand in some of that. So it's really, really been beneficial.
That sounds great. Yeah. And, we all love Cleveland, but if you can get to California or Texas or Florida, like you said, in the middle of winter, that's not a bad gig there either.
Yeah.
So, so last week, you did an interview with, I always still want to say San Diego, but Los Angeles Chargers coach Brandon Staley, who you are related to. I believe you guys are cousins. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, we're second cousins. So,
okay. Okay. So you did a great job with that interview. And he, unfortunately for us Browns fans, kind of out Stefanski last week. But talk to us a little bit. I've heard, with him obviously, and some other, you might have some other relatives in the sports world. Is that correct?
My cousin is Ricky Stanzi, so local kid. So he's my first cousin. Brandon's my second cousin. So it's just funny. Yeah, big sports family, obviously. But I have to say it was pretty awesome with Brandon. Obviously NFL coach, right? He has been quickly rose up the ranks, and now obviously we saw what he did on Sunday. He's an awesome coach and a football mind, and he's just so extremely intelligent when it comes to that. But first and foremost, he's an amazing guy, because I had texted him knowing, they're going to play the Browns. I know you guys have a Monday night game. They just had played the Raiders. And I said, hey, like, I understand if you can't. I'm sure you have a lot going on. Right. He immediately said, family first, of course. Here, set it up though with, their PR guy, and the PR guy called me and was very, very nice and said, I just got off the phone with Brandon. He said this is something that was important to him and he really wanted to do because you're family. He goes, we never do interviews with the opposing media before a game leading up to this. Like, they'll do conference calls, let's say, with the entire media if that's what they decide to do. But he's like, obviously with his roots here, he grew up a Browns fan. So it's just surreal to be able to talk to him. It was so fun because all of our family was watching. They loved it. And it was really, really great. So he was so gracious to do it. He's a great guy, obviously. And what he's been doing with the Chargers has been pretty awesome. So it was really fun, and really was one of the highlights of my career, because, you get to have family then and talk football, and it just kind of came full circle. So it was awesome.
Yeah. And you do a great job with your interviews, whether family or not. That was a really, really cool interview to hear, especially Thanks. From him leading up to the game. So Ashely, let's talk. Obviously you're on air a lot and you guys are live, so that adds a whole other element to broadcast TV. You guys obviously do a lot of phone calls and interaction with your viewers. So do you have any good on-air stories? I think everybody's kind of seen some of the memes out there of Bruce when he loses it on a caller. I think at the beginning of the Indians season, there was a good one with him losing it. But do you have any good on-air stories?
Just basically that. Literally, it's a you never know what you will get from Bruce Drennan, and it's every day, and that's why it's so much fun, because we don't rehearse anything. We have a pre-show meeting. Our producer will give us, this is the rundown of the day. This is what we're going to talk about. Bruce will go and we'll do our thing and we'll talk to the facts, and this is the stats and this is what happened. And then when he wants to go, he just goes. It is awesome. It's so much fun because you're just kind of like, what's coming next? I don't know. You guys see the same thing I see when it comes through. Sometimes I'll be able to tell if he's maybe, I can tell he's getting a little agitated. So I know that it may be coming. But when he blows up on callers, it's the best, because I'll usually have left set at when he's taking the calls, and I'll go into a master control room, and I'll be either have the TV on in my office listening or in there listening as it's coming through. And I'm just like, I can tell in his face, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And then it does. And it's hilarious. And I
Oh,
always
no
like
doubt.
texting his wife. I'm like, oh, look what's going on. So it's just great. He's so much fun because you don't know what's going to happen. Right. But he's just known for that. Sometimes and he'll go a little bit when it's fine and they'll let everybody have their peace and talk.
Mhm.
But then sometimes you never know. And
Yep.
he just, so it is, it's just one of those things like you really have no idea what's going to come next. And that's live TV, right? We don't get to fix it if something happens, or sometimes he'll call me his wife's name on air, which is hilarious. And I'm just like, okay. And then I'm like crying, laughing about it. And I'm like, okay, I have to get to the next story here.
Right.
Yeah, but he's just, and you know what, in real life, like normal, if you sat here right now with him, he's the exact same that he is on TV, or if he blows up at a caller, or if he gets mad at me and he wants to yell. So I just think he's exactly what you see on television, and that's why it makes him so great.
That is good. Yeah, the genuine article. And I think they did a good job pairing you guys up because you seem to be that more calming, very calming
I have
influence.
to.
So yeah.
I have no choice. I have to. Could you imagine if we were both like that? I don't think anyone would get a word in. So we're good.
That's great. So, tell us some of, obviously the on-air stuff, the interview stuff, but tell us some of the other like favorite aspects of your job. Obviously traveling, it sounds like is a nice little perk that you might have here and there, but
Yep.
tell us some of the favorite aspects.
So yes, traveling for sure. That's just such a smaller part though, but I'll tell you what, it's just, and it's been a little different because of COVID. So hopefully we're getting back to a little normalcy here. But the favorite part of my job is going out and covering, whether it be a practice or a press conference. Just, I love being in studio, but I love also going out before and getting stuff to bring back to the studio, to be on site when things are happening, to kind of get the pulse of what's been going on, whether that even be talking to other media members that are there at the same time as me,
Sure.
or getting this kind of soundbite, or if I'm lucky too because I get to do fun features as well. So I get to go to Progressive Field and do the Top Golf event that they had going on, and they'll call and say, hey, we have this, or a charity event. That's really awesome to go and see players, coaches, the different side of them that you don't get to see every day when they're on the field or at the ballpark or whatever it may be. It's really, really fun. I love going to events like that and seeing that side of them. And I think that that's one of my favorite parts. So to cover all that and hoping that this world will get back to, that's completely normal once again. And, everyone can do all that. But I think I would have to say that that's my favorite.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So, so you growing up, you said you're from a big sports family. You obviously have some, Ricky Stanzi was at Iowa, if I'm.
Yep.
Okay.
He went to Lake Catholic and then Iowa, and then he was drafted by the Chiefs, and he was with 4 or 5 NFL teams. So yeah, I'm super close with him. He lives right down the street from me. So we're together all the time and talking football, and yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. So being from a big sports family and obviously in the sports, news cycle day to day, growing up, who were some of your favorite athletes or coaches or role models, I guess, that you looked up to?
So I loved Mark Price. I loved Kenny Lofton, and then I met him at the golf course that I worked at, really met him years and years later, obviously. And I was like, oh my God, I had the biggest fan moment of my life. And Mark Price always, and it was funny. I was just driving home and there's I don't know if you know the song. I don't even know who sings it. It's Oh, What a Night. And I remember driving to school after he had a monster game and that song was on and they played it after they talked about his game. And so that song reminds me of him every time I hear it. And I just heard it on the way home. So that's why I tell you this. But I loved him. And so those kind of stick out in my mind for sure. And it's funny because I'm a huge football fan and football family, but I'm not really remembering I think I actually hated the Browns growing up because I was made to wear all of the Brown stuff every Sunday when I was like small and had no idea. And
Sure.
I'm like, why are we doing this every single Sunday, guys? Like, can we just do something else?
Yeah.
Like, my parents would spray paint our shoes orange. And I was like, well, we're ruining a perfectly good pair of shoes, but okay, whatever you guys say. So, but yeah, those two really stick out in my mind. And it's funny because also I was a huge wrestling fan, like WWF growing up, my whole family. Like, we would go with my cousins, Ricky and his brothers, and me and my sister to the wrestling events when they would come to Cleveland. And Jerry Lawler actually is a big fan of our show and messages me sometimes about it. And he watches every day, he says. And I was like, that was the coolest thing. I'm dead. That was the coolest thing in my life when he messaged me. I saw him at a game. It's just a lot of Cleveland fans that you just kind of think of that. And so that's what comes to mind when I think of that.
That's really cool. Yeah. And now you being, for what you said since 2008 or so your face has been on TV and, everywhere. So you get probably a lot of people just coming up and saying hi or want to talk sports or whatever with you.
Yes, and they always want to know if Bruce is really like that in real life. And I say, yes. You should come visit because he's like that. But yes, it's great. I love it. Love it. It's just funny. Everyone always is like, oh, so what do you think about the Browns? Yeah, well, I'll sit there and chat all day long if you want. It's funny. Awesome. I'll go out with my girlfriends who could care less about sports and literally have no clue about sports. And so we'll sit there, we'll be out somewhere and someone will come up and they're like, gosh, like, stop. Like, can we just get back to our conversation, about something else? And I'm like, guys, come on. I'd much rather talk sports with the fans over here than whatever we have going on. So it's really cool. It's really humbling. Fans are the best. And that's how, it makes shows go, especially like a live call-in show. And Bruce's fans are the absolute best. He has such a big following. So it just, carries over. And it's just a really fun aspect of it to be able to have someone tell you, oh, hey, great interview today. Oh, hey, great job. Oh, I watched this, loved it. Or, hey, what about this? So I love that aspect.
Yeah, that's really cool when you can get like that instant feedback, even in person, face to face. So let me ask you one more question, I guess, about your job. So if you, and I guess this is a hypothetical. So if you could get, and obviously you interviewed your cousin, you said, which was a huge interview for you. But if you could have one interview for anybody in the sports world, we'll say either living or dead, or past or present, whatever you want to say, who would that one interview be? Kind of putting you on the spot here.
I know you are. Gosh, I haven't thought about this because I also interviewed Jim Brown. So that was pretty hard to now even think. I'm like, what do you think? Jim Brown, sure. I interviewed him at the Cavs championship parade and it was awesome. Like, totally awesome. So, man, I don't even know because I'm not even thinking of like people not alive right now, I guess. It's difficult because, I mean, I'm going to be like a fangirl here. I'm a really big fan of Tom Brady and just in life in general. So it would be really cool for that. But this is a good question, and I'm probably going to sit here and have to think about it, and then I'm going to be like messaging you, like, "Oh no, wait, I thought I have my answer here."
That's fine. We can share that out later.
There's so many good people, but we have so many good people here in Cleveland too. Like when you think of like a Terry Francona, like great, right? Like you get to talk to a great mind about the game of baseball and what he does. And I've talked to Terry Francona. Mike Hargrove is another one that I think is absolutely amazing and have a good relationship with him. So it's funny because I've talked to a lot of people that I would have looked up to and think, hey, this would be a cool sit down. And so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Sorry for the lame answer, but that's what it is.
I think, sometimes when I ask these questions, I think about that, like, what would I say too? And I think I would probably answer very similar to yours. I don't know, because there's so many awesome people that you would want to just have that conversation with. So, okay, let's get into just a couple of the Cleveland sports notes. So obviously the Browns, the 2021 season, a lot of high expectations. We're 3-2 right now, could easily be 5-0 or 4-1. But what are your sort of just global thoughts on the 2021 Cleveland Browns?
So this is it. So obviously high expectations from everyone, I think, including the team. So they could say whatever, but it is. Stefanski has done a phenomenal job with what he's done, and he's just insane. And from what we've had before to what we have now, I still think there's question marks a little bit. You look at your record, it is what it is, right? You can't say, okay, what if? I think winning the big games is what the Browns need to figure out how to do, because you have a shootout with the Chargers. You have to now play the undefeated Arizona Cardinals. You gotta be able to figure those things out. I don't really know what is going on with Odell and Baker. I think that it's question marks here. I know we're going to get Jarvis Landry back. The defense is a little bit of a roller coaster, in my opinion. There's so much talent in each of these rooms that it's just like, hey, why are they not? But you go up against a really good Chargers team. You're going to go up a really good Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. It doesn't get easy. And I think our division is so tough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who would have thought that when you look at the Bengals, right? What are they going to do? And then if the Steelers figure it out and they continue to, okay, then you have them too. And then what Lamar Jackson just did on Monday Night Football, then you sit back and say, man, like, you can look at these series with your division, what could happen?
Right.
And I don't think it's to say that you're a bad team if you're losing any of these games, because these other teams are so good as well.
No doubt.
So I think I had this in my mind. Like I'm saying I wanted to say 11 wins when the season started. And I don't know, right now I'm kind of at 9 or 10. And they're not playing bad, obviously, when they're losing. So I think that that's a good thing, but a win's a win, right? That's what you have to do in this league, and this is what counts. So I think they're in a good place. I don't think there should be any panic. I don't think, even if they lose on Sunday, which hoping home field advantage, let's help. The Cardinals are going to have to lose. Perfect time. Why don't you lose Sunday to the Browns? But I don't think it's time for any panic or anything. I just think that there's still this little bit of like, he's still a new coach. There's still like players gelling together. This defense is not played together. We're getting on the same page. We're trying to consistently stay on the same page. So I think it'll figure itself out. I think they're a very good team, and I think they're showing people that they're a very good team. Now it's time to just close it out, to finish it, to like nail in the coffin when it gets down to that. And that's what really good teams find ways to do, right? At the end, when it counts most, no matter what, who cares what the ref said or what the refs did, this is what we have to do. And we got to trust in the process of what they're doing right now, and hope that it'll take us to the playoffs again. Cause man, that was pretty fun last year after they're able to do something like that. So if it is consistent for this city, it's so exciting, I think, to everyone here in Cleveland.
Great answer. I mean, I think you hit all the bullet points on the way down. You got Odell, you got Stefanski.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, nice job. So, all right, let's just, we'll just keep this one short, but your thoughts on the Cavs, because since they have, moved on from LeBron, or LeBron has moved on from us, whatever way you want to say it, we've struggled. We went to those 4 finals in a row, which was great. It was an awesome run, but I think they've won 60 games in the last 3 years combined, something like that. So what are your overall thoughts on this team? They have talent, it seems, but can they put it together on the floor?
Right. And I think the thing is with the Cavs is you're going to have to keep building through the draft. So unfortunately for fans watching, that means not that great. I think the over under was 26.5 or something like that for the season. It's hard to watch a team that's not that great, but it also, in that process, has to know, and in your back of your mind, as hard as it is for fans to realize, that playing time helps people get better. Young talent has to have time to become, mature talent. I think Bickerstaff's doing and has done a really good job with the young guys and trying to navigate through this with some of the veterans and bringing in the young kids. And I think it takes time. I don't think we should expect greatness right now from this Cavs team.
Right.
I think we need to be realistic about expectations, but know that those expectations are going to lead to hopefully something good, because that means you can build. When a player like LeBron James leaves your team, it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of effort and drafting and analytics and figuring it out and what works best. So there's a lot of young guys that have a lot of talent. And I think that's just how we have to kind of look, that you'll take those little bright spots, right, and see what's working well, maybe what's not working so well, and use it moving forward.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I like it. All right. And now we're kind of getting into the heart of the Major League Baseball playoffs right now. Obviously, no Indians in it for the first time in a while. Unfortunately, the Cleveland Indians will never make the playoffs again. So first question I have is overall thoughts on the name change.
Well, my overall thoughts is that I will eventually get used to it. So because I have to, I knew it was coming, and I think we all did. So it's done. It's not coming back. This is the decision that they made, and the product on the field, if it's good, it doesn't matter. I don't care what their name is, right? It'll take time. It's different. People don't like change. I think people still call it Jacobs Field, and this is what's going on. Don't worry. It will be okay. We will get there. They had to do this, right? This is just what it is. I don't know. It's just strange. Like, it's funny. Like, I have to keep practicing it. We don't say it yet. Like, we do, but we're not in season right now because they didn't make the postseason. So when it comes next year, I'm going to sit there like for January, February, just get ready before spring training and say Guardians. But I don't know. I think a lot of fans are upset because of the history, and you think of how long this team has been the Cleveland Indians, and it's a hard change, but I like it. We'll get used to it. It'll be okay. And I'm hoping that the product will just make everything better. It's so great, and the best experience ever, I think, at Progressive Field. It's so much fun. They do such a great job there. I love going to games. I love everything that happens there. I think it's an amazing ballpark. I have family that comes into town, and they absolutely love it there. I think it'll be good. So let's go to the playoffs, and then the Guardians are in the playoffs, so we'll be good with that, right?
Okay, yeah, it sounds great to me. Sounds great to me. All right, let me end on this question with you. So, and this is a non-sports question, but a Cleveland question. So, excluding going to a game or any kind of sporting event, what is your favorite thing about the city, or favorite things about the city of Cleveland, or like things to do or places to go, things like that?
So I live on the east side, in the suburbs, but I work downtown. I find that, and I lived on the west. I grew up on the east side. I moved to the west side. I moved back to the east side. I work downtown. So covering all of my bases here, I will tell you what, and especially during COVID, and this is probably why I'm saying this, the metro parks are my most favorite thing about it, and you can go everywhere. I have maybe seen like all of them during COVID, and it's just amazing. The parks and the different, waterfronts. It's so much fun to me to go do that and explore. And it's great to explore the city too. I'm just so used to it being downtown and walking wherever. I mean, the restaurants I think are absolutely amazing. I love going west side, east side, everywhere. I know most people won't like cross that downtown line if you live on the east side or the west side to go one or the other, but I was lucky enough to see both sides of the city and downtown. And in addition to the restaurants and doing things like that, I think that, our metro parks and golf courses too. I mean, I like to golf a little bit, but to go along with that whole metro parks feel, I think the golf courses are absolutely amazing in this part, of the city, in the area. So there's so much fun stuff to do outside, and it's just so pretty. And the weather we've been having right now too is just making me feel that even more, going to explore a little bit. And I think, if you haven't been out to all those places, there's so much to do. So I highly recommend it.
Very good. Very good. Well, Ashely, thank you for giving us a look kind of behind the scenes of what you do, and, talking to you. And we appreciate you. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll talk hopefully soon. Oh, did we get cut off?